Hey, how you doing? Justin here. In this lesson today we're going to be checking out suspended chords, which are very, very cool little chords that float around in the air all by themselves. No, seriously. So, suspended chords, what they really mean, the technical term for any of you that know a bit of your music theory, suspended means take away the third and replace with. Now, chords are usually made up of a root, a third and a fifth, and it's the third of the chord that dictates whether a chord is considered major or minor. So those of you that have done your exercise working out what the notes are of your different chords will notice, say for an A chord, there's only one note different between A and A minor, and that's the C sharp has been replaced by the note C in A minor. Just interesting little bit of food for you theory monsters out there. So what we're going for now is using these suspended chords, and we're going to start off with A sus4 and A sus2. Okie dokie, here we are looking at, this is an A chord, trad style, with the fingers 1, 2, 3 all in a row. Now, if we're looking at our regular A and we want to play an A sus4, we simply add our little finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Here, A sus4. Then we go back to regular A, and if we lift off our 2nd finger, we get our A sus2, and back to A. A sus4, regular A sus2. If you have been doing it playing the A with your 1st and 2nd finger swapped over, there's your regular A sus4. Just as easy to do it that way. Here, and then lifting that same finger off for your A sus2. Maybe for you guys it feels the same. For me, this one feels a lot more comfortable, probably because that's the way that I learned A, but just doing that then feels pretty comfortable to me. Okay, the next chord we're going to check out after our A sus chord is our D sus4 and D sus2. Very, very simple chords again, and you wait till we finish doing this lesson, you know what the chords are. I'll show you some really wicked ways to use them. So let's go to a close-up now and look at our D sus4 and our D sus2. So here's our D chord, our regular old D. Now if we want to play D sus4, all we do is add little finger to the 3rd fret of the thinner string. So there's D, here's D sus4, lift it off, we're back at regular D. Lift off the 2nd finger, we got D sus2, and back to D. So a good thing to practice here is doing D, sus4, regular D, sus2, and back to D again. Now, the next chord we're going to look at is E sus4. Now, it's a kind of a bit of a funny situation here because there's not actually a good way of playing E sus2 as an open chord, just E sus4. So that's the one we're going to look at. Of course, it is possible, but it's definitely not in the scope of doing things in a beginner's guitar course because it's quite difficult to change to. So we're just going to be checking out E sus4. So here we are, there's regular E chord. And if we were going to go to an E sus4, all we're doing, adding little finger underneath there. There's your regular E, little finger, E sus4, back to E. Now, suspended chords, as you can hear, are kind of floaty sounding. So if I just go to a regular D chord, and now if I go to a D sus4, they hover around a bit. They're a little bit strange sounding chords. And they want to resolve. So you can hear D sus4, they're really pulling to D. So the first way that they're used is their own, they can be a chord unto itself if you want to use it as part of your chord sequence. So bands like U2 and that sort of thing, they use a lot of suspended chords in their sound because they're quite a hip sound. The Crowded House, another one of my favourite band, and they use sus chords all the time as well because they're really airy and open sounding because they're not considered either major or minor. Now, one of the things that you can also experiment with these ones is playing, just then I was doing the major chords and going to the minor chords, but you can just, the major chords and going to the sus chords, but you can do it just as easily with the minor chords. So if we look at a close-up now here of D minor, there's D minor chord, if we add our little finger there, there's D sus4. Same dots, different fingers. There's back to D minor, there's D sus2, and D minor again. Works exactly the same for A minor. There's A minor, there's A sus4, back to A minor, lift off first finger, there's A sus2. If we go to E minor, there's E minor, add little finger, there's E sus4, back to E minor. Now suspended chords are very often used to embellish a regular chord sequence. So if you're stuck on the one chord for ages and you kind of get a bit bored, you can start to add in your sus chord. So let's say I've got a little sequence that stays on D for a while. And after a while I'm starting to get a little bit bored with my D chord and I'm looking to do something a little different. I can start adding in sus4 and sus2 whenever I feel like it. Sometimes they get used quite quickly, like sometimes you play it and leave it for ages. Some people kind of make little riffs out of them. Loads and loads of different ways of using these little suspended chords. That was with the D major. Then I was just experimenting with using D sus4 and the D sus2, but I could have done it with D minor and gone like, here's D minor, to A minor, back to D minor. You can really experiment with these sus chords a whole lot. They're a really, really useful chord. They're good ones to know unto themselves, but they're even better for adding a little bit of embellishment, and you can pretty much use them whenever you like. The big judge, of course, is use your ears. If it sounds good, it is good. And if it sounds bad, it is bad. You thought I was going to say something else, didn't you? Anyway, so that's something really, really cool to add to your repertoire. Try sticking them into any of the songs that you've learnt so far, and have fun. That's what they're about. See you for another lesson sometime real soon. Bye bye.